on this Monday following the passing of the great JT Williamson. And joining us now, a very close friend of JT, Coach Scott Berry, head coach, University of Southern Mississippi baseball. Good morning, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, appreciate you having me on, Gerard.
You bet. So for the benefit of our audience, Coach, tell us how you and JT became acquainted, how you got to be friends, and then how that relationship really blossomed from there.
Well, first of all, let me certainly offer my condolences to his family and to the SuperTalk family and everybody that were listeners and friends of JT's tremendous loss, and when the news got to me this past weekend. But, you know, JT, when I first met him, it was obviously through a remote that he was doing for SuperTalk, and it was in Hattiesburg, and the first one was here on USM's campus. And, you know, I think there's certain people in your life that you meet and you just connect with. And certainly I'd listened to JT and knew about him from the radio side, but from the in-person side and off the air, and just how he wanted to know as much about you as he could. And, you know, he welcomed that relationship from the very beginning. And certainly after that, we did several other remotes. It seems like they were always from Corner Market. And, of course, we shared stories of hunting. He loved to deer hunt. And the one thing that we didn't get to do that he had never done and wanted to do, and he even said this after he became sick, that I'm going to get well so you can take me turkey hunting. And he knew that I liked to turkey hunt, and he had never been. And, of course, he had land in Collins, and I've got a camp up in Collins as well. So, but, you know, he was just he was a guy that his values and everything that he stood for, really, it aligned with myself. I mean, he loved his country. He had a tremendous faith, even from the beginning of this illness to the end. You know, he recognized and accepted that God had a story for him that needed to be told, and he was not afraid to tell that story along that time. And but he, you know, he just was outgoing for others. You know, he was heavily invested in law enforcement. He felt like they were underappreciated and underfunded, and he was on a mission to help them. And the Palmer homes, obviously, not telling things that people don't know, but these are things that I remember about him and his legacy and what he did and how he impacted people. But, you know, one thing that he just really loved, and that was Mississippi and the people of it. Yeah. And that's how kind of our relationship really started, and it continued through the time that he became sick and then after that.
Yeah. And you know what was amazing, and I know you know this, Coach, is being the positive, optimistic soul that JT was. He never once thought he wasn't going to get through this deal. I mean, he was, you know, every time he came on the show and talked, it was always, Gerard, keep that chair warm for me. I'm coming back, and I knew that, and he just never indicated that he was concerned that he wasn't going to get through it, and I think that likely prolonged his life.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, attitude was everything with him, and I know through several of the text messages that he and I shared, we talked about attitude and his willingness to fight, and I agree 100%. That was certainly what kept him moving forward in this in the ability to fight and beat this illness. So he taught us a lot. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And as you know, he loved his Mississippi State Bulldogs, and what unbelievable timing, God's perfect timing, to, I guess, see them through really what was the most difficult gauntlet of all, as you well know, sir, in college baseball, and that's that College World Series. And, you know, glad to see him be around for that.
Well, I agree. When Mississippi State did win that final game, that was one of the first things that I thought of, how proud he was of his program. And he would always tell me, he was always very complimentary of our program
Yes.
and what we did here. But, his love for Mississippi State was certainly at the top. And that was great that happened for him there this year.
It's I'm going to share during the show some of the many comments, expressions of condolences, and also thanks. It's not surprising to you, is it, Scott, that there's so many folks out there that JT unselfishly helped, and it wasn't helping folks that asked for it. He just did it because it was the right thing to do. It's the kind of person he was.
You're right, Gerard. It was. And, he was not afraid to jump out front, take the lead on anything. He wasn't afraid to say what was on his mind that he felt was right. And, those are things that aren't present a lot today. And people are afraid to do that. But I think that what you saw with him and his story here all the way to the end, and the willingness to fight, was that confidence in himself to be that leader in whatever the Lord asked him to do. He was going to take charge of that and move forward with it, whether it was helping others or just the attitude that he exhibited in this fight with cancer.
Yeah, it's so true. And those of us that believe still in the power of rugged individualism and just picking up by the bootstraps and just doing stuff on your own and not waiting for others, that's JT Williamson.
That's exactly right. And he wasn't afraid to jump out in front and do it. And I'll tell you, I knew something wasn't right on Thursday. I went back and looked at my phone. On Thursday, I texted him because every morning I pray for him and others. And I, every 2 or 3 weeks I would send him a text of encouragement and just thinking about you. And I know the time before he had said that he had started a new experimental chemo that he was willing to do. And so I sent him a text on Thursday just asking him, how it was going and hope he was feeling better. And I never heard back from it. And I knew when I got the news on Saturday that I just knew that there wasn't something right, because he always got back, and just appreciated everything. And I knew on Saturday when I got that news there was something to it that not hearing from him on Thursday.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you for your staying with JT and being such a big part of his life. And staying in constant communication with him, because I guarantee you that that was a source of comfort for him. And I also believe that it was one of the reasons that he was able to get really through it much further than even originally thought from the medical community. And there's no question that your relationship with him was instrumental in that, and just picking the phone up, texting. You're obviously a busy person, got a big program to run, and it's a pressure cooker. It's college athletics, as you know, and I respect that. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for that.
Well, I'll tell you, Lord puts people in front of us and crosses paths with people for a reason, and I'm just so thankful that I was able to cross paths with JT, and certainly I'm a better person, and so is everybody else, for having his influence and his impact of his life on each and every one of us. Yeah.
And I know JT, he'd want you to focus on winning baseball games. That's what he would expect. That's your duty here on this planet, and certainly from a work perspective. And that's what he'd tell you, is that, I appreciate it there, Coach, but get back to keeping that program going and making it the best you can. And I know you're going to do that. But, Coach, thanks so much for joining us today. That was really good. Really appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you again.
You bet. Coach Scott Berry, the head coach of the University of Southern Mississippi, the Golden Eagles. Fantastic program down there, folks. We'll step aside right here for a break. We'll come back. We got lots of texts, and we're going to share some of the comments from really across the spectrum of politics and other notable Mississippi figures. Stay with us.